Thank you for joining our webinar on Get Acquainted with the new ASP .NET 5. We will begin the webinar in a while. We'll wait for just a few more minutes so that the last minute participants can log on. Good morning to everyone present here. Welcome to our webinar on Get Acquainted with the new ASP .NET 5. I am Mukta Ashok and I'll be your moderator for today's webinar. Before we begin, let's review a few pointers on how we can interact during the webinar. Now we are looking at the attendee interface of GoToWebinar. The reviewer window on the left allows you to see everything that we'll be sharing from our screen, and the control panel on the right is how you can participate in today's event. Now, as we would love to hear from you, so please do ask questions and share your comments. As mentioned, this option is located on the left tab. Now we'll be reviewing your questions as they come in, and we'll take them up towards the end during the question and answer session. Also, the webinar is being recorded and everyone will receive an email with the link to view a recording of today's event. Now, as we move on to the webinar, I would like to introduce you to our company, Suyati Technologies. Suyati focuses on delivering niche IT solutions and services, including CMS, CRM, and e-commerce. We are an Electron featured implementation partner, Microsoft Gold partner with an extensive experience in free and open source and mobile app technologies. Now, speaking about our ASP.NET expertise, Suyati Technologies has a wide-ranging expertise in ASP.NET and has developed umpteen number of web applications with complex workflows for the publishing industry. Now, in addition, Suyati's certified product engineers have developed two remarkable products on the ASP.NET MVC framework. Now, our extensive experience includes working in the most advanced automation scenarios. Now, moving on to our featured speakers. I'm proud to present our featured speakers, Rifaj and Anup. Rifaj is a senior developer at Suyati Technology who works mainly on Microsoft Stack, ASP.NET, C#, Web API, MVC, etc. Apart from being a passionate technologist, he's also a social media enthusiast and is very keen on latest gadgets. Rifaj is also an ardent supporter of the football club Chelsea, and he absolutely loves to spend time watching football. Moving on to Anup. Anup has been working as a software developer with Suyati Technologies, and he is mainly on the platform C#, .NET, MVC. Now, he likes to follow the pulse of social media regularly and is an active tweet who tweets about technology in general. Now, this makes him an enthusiast on working with social media integration APIs. Now, besides technology, he is also a die-hard cricket fan. Moving on to our social media tags, please do feel free to post questions, followers, or even tag us. You can use the hashtags and handles you see on the screen. Now, that's all from my end. Now, Rifaj will take you through the agenda of the day. Over to you, Rifaj.
Thank you, Mukta. Hi all, myself Rifaj Abubakar. So let me quickly take you to the agenda today. So we'll be looking at ASP.NET 5. So what is ASP.NET 5? Then we'll be focusing on 4 different elements of ASP.NET 5 and the modern web. So we'll be focusing on the cross-platform, what ASP.NET 5 has to offer for the cross-platform, open source, cloud-friendly, and performance. Then we'll be looking at DNX and DNVM. So what is DNX and DNVM? We'll be having a closer look at DNX and DNVM. Then we'll quickly take you to the new features and the tooling that is available in Visual Studio 2015. Then we'll be talking about the dependencies and packaging, how we can handle the dependencies and packaging in ASP.NET 5. Then we'll be having a look at Bower-Grund and NPM, how Bower-Grund and NPM is being integrated with ASP.NET 5 and Visual Studio 2015. Then we'll have a look at multiple hosting options, followed by the Q&A session. So we have an exciting week coming up. We have multiple series of ASP.NET 5 webinars coming up in the following week. So the next featured webinar will be on ASP.NET MVC 6 and the Web API. So we'll be doing a complete demo of how to build a modern web app using ASP.NET MVC 6. Then we'll be developing a backend server application which you can leverage for your mobile applications. So we'll be developing an ASP.NET 5 Web API application, which with both these demos and the application and the walkthrough are planned for the next webinar, which will take place by next week. So moving on to the next slide. So what is ASP.NET 5? So ASP.NET 5 is a significant architectural update which is done on the ASP.NET stack. So it is rebuilt from ground up. It is more linear now, it is more modular, cross-platform and cloud optimized. So all the changes on the ASP.NET 5, it is emphasis on simplifying the development, hosting and maintenance, and it is targeted to the modern web apps. So talking about modern web, so we will be taking a look at what ASP.NET 5 has to offer on the modern web on these 4 elements: the cross-platform, open source, cloud-friendly and performance. So what is actually a modern web? So when you talk about modern web, when you're developing a modern web application, so the first thing that comes up to your mind is a mobile first design. So the mobile first design, when you take a look at the stats of the mobile users in the world, you cannot avoid the mobile with the mobile the website or the application, how it performs in a mobile device. So you cannot avoid design how it look at on a mobile and a tablet. So for a mobile first design, you need to have a responsiveness. So a modern web app will be responsive, it will be mobile first design. So there are multiple JavaScript, there are multiple client-side libraries available which will make the mobile first design easy for you. And modern web app is a super fast app. People are not ready to wait for loading your application. People will not wait if the application is slower. If the competition in the world market currently for a web application, there are multiple competitors. So to keep up with your competition, you need to build a super fast app. You need to build a cool app. So a super fast app, you need to build a super fast app for the modern web. So how to build a super fast app? It needs to be lightweight. So your application should be lightweight enough. It should, in size, in performance, in whatever area that you can make your application lightweight, you need to ensure that the application that you're building is lightweight. It should not be heavy for making the application work faster, and it should be cloud ready. So when you take a look at the previous ASP.NET applications, it cannot be set as cloud ready. So you need a full .NET framework on your server, and that your code needs to be moved to the server, and you need to change all the configuration there, and your .NET framework has to support your application there in the IIS. So there is as a developer, you're not comfortable for moving your old ASP.NET code to cloud. So cloud ready, a modern web app needs to be cloud ready in the sense there is less hindrance when a developer moves the code from the development machine to the live server, and it should be easy scalable. So when you're targeting a modern web, when you're creating a modern web application, if you have a huge user base, if you're targeting a multi-million user base for your application, you need to have multiple servers, you need to have multiple virtual machines where your applications will be running. So there the session state and maintaining the session and state will be a challenge. So when you're developing a modern application, it should be easily scalable. You should not worry about when I'm scaling up to multiple VMs, when I'm scaling up to multiple servers, my application should not have any changes in terms of handling the session or in terms of anything of that sort. So easy scalability is one thing, and there is agile and platform independent. So agility in the sense, a modern web application should be built very fastly. So developer or the development team should not should not get stuck on any packages or any libraries or any other dependencies that comes around when you're developing your code. So the application should be agile enough, the development should be agile enough for a web application or a modern web application to complete the project very fastly. So, and the modern web application should be platform independent. So you should be able to host your application in any of the servers, may it be the Linux or a Windows server or any other server, any other servers. So moving on to the next slide. So open sourcing. So what is Microsoft actually open sourcing? So why is Microsoft actually open sourcing .NET? So Microsoft wants to lay a foundation for a .NET cross-platform. So a .NET cross-platform, so you can have multiple services, multiple client application hosted on your server, and then to leverage a stronger ecosystem, a .NET ecosystem. So currently, when you look at the front-end client libraries, it is currently separated from the .NET ecosystem. You have a stronger server code on .NET, and this can be utilized along with the current ecosystem, the bigger ecosystem of the client-side JavaScript libraries, and it can come up as an ecosystem. So how this can be achieved? So we'll come up to what Microsoft is open sourcing in the later point. So this is the road ahead for the .NET. How Microsoft is visioning the .NET platform is in this way. So you'll be having multiple .NET innovations. You will be having the .NET Core, ASP.NET 5, Roslyn compiler, Entity Framework 7, IoT innovations, etc. And everything what they will be building on the .NET stack will be open source through GitHub. So you have all the codes, .NET Framework, the .NET compilers, everything is open source now, and that should be cross-platform as well. You can develop your .NET code on Mac, Linux, and you can host it on anywhere as you wish. So coming back to the previous slide, so Microsoft is open sourcing multiple things. So what is actually Microsoft open sourcing? Microsoft is open sourcing ASP.NET 4 and 5. Then they're open sourcing .NET Core 5. I'll come to details on what is .NET Core 5. Then they're open sourcing runtime components, the compilers, and the .NET Core 5 libraries. So .NET Framework, which is 4.6, which is a full framework, it is not open source. So they are open sourcing ASP.NET 5, ASP.NET 4 and 5, .NET Core 5, libraries, compilers, and runtime components. So moving on to the next slide. So what actually mean by cloud friendly? So as I mentioned, it should be a seamless transition from on-premise to the cloud. So how this can be achieved? A seamless transition from on-premise to the cloud. So when you have an on-premise application, how you can have it? You can have it on to the cloud. So this cloud, previously which I mentioned, it should be easily scalable. So you don't have to worry about. You don't have to worry much about what the session state you are using for your on-premise application. It is currently the entire framework is a part of the ASP.NET 5 application. So you don't have to worry much on how on-premise infrastructure or how on-premise your application is. You can easily migrate your application to the cloud. Then there is a scope to configuration. So as a developer, you can have separate config file in dev and live environment, and you can be ensure that it won't break the code. So what it does is it instead overrides the config.json file in your server. So you can keep your environment variable. You can keep your connection string in your live tight and make sure that your development code doesn't create any problems in your live site. And another thing is the entire framework is part of the application. So the previous slide which I've shown, what Microsoft is actually open sourcing. So you can see the .NET Framework 4.6 and the .NET Core 5. So there is three different runtime environments that get great flexibility when you host your application. So you have three different runtimes, which is the full .NET Framework 4.6, the .NET Core 5, and cross-platform CLR. Cross-platform CLR is yet to be released by Microsoft. You have the full .NET Framework 4.6 and the .NET Core 5. So .NET Core 5 is a subset of .NET Framework 4.6. You have your minimal features in .NET Core 5, and which is cross-platform, and it is open source. So this enables your .NET applications to target the packages, the server-side packages which you need for your features. So you don't have to include the entire .NET framework to run your application, and you also have the flexibility to target multiple applications when you're hosting in a server to run on the specific version that you're mentioning in your application. So that is a major change in ASP.NET 5. The entire app framework is part of the application, and it takes the full advantage of the platform as service when you're using ASP.NET 5. So you can push your application to Windows Azure without worrying about your .NET framework, worrying about your server infrastructure, the operating system there, the .NET framework version in your server. You have your entire framework as part of your application. So you can make the complete use of your platform as service when you are hosting on cloud. Then another thing that we have already mentioned is the upscale automatically without worrying about session and state. So you can scale whenever you want without worrying about your code, and you can run and debug in cloud. So another major thing that ASP.NET 5 provides is you can run and debug your code in the cloud. So you can host your application in the cloud. You can connect your cloud configuration in Visual Studio, and you can debug your code, and you can have multiple tracing and logging enabled to have a proper debugging activity. So moving on to the next slide. So performance is what matters for any web application or any application, I would say. So what ASP.NET has changed in terms of performance is it has changed the startup time of the application. So there is no system.web.dll. So you don't have to worry about the system.web.dll. It is no more in ASP.NET 5. So it enables your applications to load faster. You only have a configure app in the startup.cs file. So it runs your application quickly, and it loads up very fastly. And when you look at each preview release by Microsoft, it is getting faster by each release. So you can expect a super fast application when the final version of the ASP.NET 5 is out there in the market. So it is a performance optimized release. Every time they're working keen on the performance, they're increasing the startup times every time they release a new version. So as I mentioned, startup.cs loads faster and give multiple options. So you can add a middleware in the pipeline. Every time when the request comes in, you can add a it can go through the middleware, and you can have multiple authentication in the startup.cs file. And as we see, there is no full framework required. The .NET full framework 4.6, it is 200 MB. So whereas the lighter version, the .NET Core 5, it is just 11 MB. So a reducing size of the .NET Core 5 means you have the entire framework in your application, and it is lightweight. And you can have the specific packages that you need. You can install all the packages that you need specifically through NuGet application, and there is no full framework. You don't have to carry in the 200 MB of 4.6 framework whenever you are releasing the application. And then the reduced compile time, edit and refresh your edit your code, save your code, and refresh your browser to see the changes. So we'll do a demo of this in the coming slides, how we can achieve this. Then you don't have to build the entire project to achieve this refresh and see your changes. And you can have the flexibility to choose your own editor. So these are the major features of the combined features of ASP.NET 5. You have a flexible cross-platform runtime. So that is a ASP.NET core 5, which is the subset of the full framework. You can have your lean framework, the modular framework, and you can have the required framework as your application need, and you can install and run it in your application. And there is a new modular HTTP request pipeline. So let's have a look at how the ASP.NET 5 application in the latest Visual Studio CTB 5. So I'll hand over to my friend here, Anup. He will take you to the project structure and how the request pipeline is currently in ASP.NET 5. Anup?
Thank you, Rifat. Hi all. Now I'm going to create a sample ASP.NET application, as usual, a Hello World application. For that I'm going to click on File, take New Project, and here you can, in this template you can see ASP.NET Web Application, ASP.NET 5 Class Library, ASP.NET 5 Console Application. So now I'm going to create a ASP.NET Web Application. For that I'm going to give the name as Suyati Webinar first, okay, and I'm going to click OK. Here in this template you can see some new things like ASP.NET 5 Preview Empty, ASP.NET 5 Preview Startup Web, ASP.NET 5 Preview Web APIs. All other things are already available in the previous versions, right? So I'm going to create an empty application first. So select this empty and click OK. It's getting generated. Okay. So if you look on the right side, you can see the basic structure of ASP.NET 5 application. So in that there are few elements of new things like root folder, dependencies, references, project.json, startup.cs. Here the root folder is used for keeping the static files like CSS, JavaScript files, images and all. But you know that the ASP guys are not familiar with this folder. But in other frameworks like open sources, they are already used to save the static files inside this folder. So next is dependencies. It's an empty application, so there is no dependencies available. Now just look on the next reference. Inside that reference you can see two elements, ASP.NET 5 and ASP.NET Core 5. The ASP.NET Core 5 is the subset of ASP.NET 5. Okay. The next thing is project.json. This file is used to normally specify the files used in our application. You can see many tags inside this project.json. We will discuss about it later. First we can go to startup.cs. Okay. Inside this startup.cs we have a function called configure. Each and every request to our application will first hit on this function. So if I give a debugger on this function and if you just run this application, we can see what will happen. It's running. If you look on this, it's running. Yeah, it's hit on this configure function. Okay, Rifat, you have told me that we can add some middleware functionality inside this startup.cs, right?
Yes. So I mentioned about you can add middleware on the configure class, and you can see how the edit your CS file, refresh your browser work in ASP.NET 5. So Anu, can you show that?
Yeah, sure. For that I am going to add a middleware. I'm going to add a middleware inside this configure. Okay. Here I'm going to add dot run. Said that I'm going to create an async delegate. Async context await context dot response. This response dot write. I'm going to give some output here. Okay, here I'm going to say hello world. HELLO, hello world, WORLD. Okay. Okay, and I'm going to remove this breakpoint. I'm going to run this one.
Okay, so your Hello World application is ready with no time. So, Anu here has added a middleware here. So the middleware, it's just simple writing onto write a Hello World to your browser. So, so without changing, without much thing, when you are replacing this Hello World to Suyati Webinar, and I'm saving the code, and when I go back to my browser and I refresh, so I can see my change reflected here.
First, is there any compiler inside that it's for getting this output?
Yes, so this has been achieved by a Roslyn compiler. So all the compilation happens in memory, and you don't get a bin or a DLL file out of it. So let's move on to the features. So it is a cloud-ready environment configuration. You have your project.json file. The JSON file very much define on what are the things that comes in your configuration. Then you have the unified programming model, which combines MVC, Web API, and web pages. So in ASP.NET 5, MVC, Web API, and web pages is merged into a single framework called MVC 6. So they are also planning to merge work forms into MVC 6. So it is not yet done. So we have currently MVC, Web API, and web pages merged into MVC 6. So this merging removes duplications and multiple duplication. When you have your web API running on your MVC application, you have multiple duplications, like how you have it in the controller, how you have the dependency resolver. Everything is duplicate in API, web API, and MVC. So they have merged everything together. So now you don't have an API controller base class. You have only a controller. The API controller base class has been merged into this controller, and you don't have multiple dependency resolver, or you only have a dependency resolver which is inbuilt in the application. So that is how MVC 6 has been emerged. You don't have a web API separate or a web page separate. Everything has been combined into MVC 6. And ability to see the changes without rebuilding the project, yes, that's just we have seen. Then the side-by-side versioning of the .NET framework. So side-by-side versioning of .NET framework, when you see the sample application, you can see the references to ASP.NET 5 and ASP.NET Core 5.0. And this is just the same in your project.json file. So I am removing my full framework, which is the .NET framework 4.6 from my JSON, and I'm saving. There you go, and you can see that it is restoring in your Solution Explorer, and you only have ASP.NET Core 5.0, which is the modular, the linear ASP.NET Core framework. So you only have your ASP.NET Server IIS, which allows you to run in the IIS Express. So if you want to add your if you want to add the full framework and not the ASP.NET Core, the linear framework, oops, you have an error here. So when you add back your both the framework, you can see it is being added back. So you can target your .NET framework. So if you want to target only on the .NET Core and you want to enable the functionalities of cross-platform and the functionalities of the modular framework and the required packages that you want, you can make use of the ASP.NET Core. And if you want the existing application, your existing ASP.NET 4.5 and the lesser applications to move to ASP.NET 5, you can make use of the full framework, which is ASP.NET 5.0. So when you're moving your current application, your existing application, it will work without any modification if you are using ASP.NET 5.0. I mean the .NET 4.6, which is the full framework. It will work. Your current application will work without any modification. But if you are targeting ASP.NET Core 5, which is the leaner, the cross-platform framework, you have to make some changes in your application basically. So you don't have a system.web DLL there, and you have multiple changes in the pipeline, everything. So you have to change your code to make it work on the ASP.NET Core framework. Then you can have the side-by-side versioning of the .NET framework. So when apps on a server depend on a single system-wide installation of .NET framework, all of the app has to run on the same version of .NET. So when I have a single version installed, I need to ensure that if I upgrade to a newer version, I need to ensure that all my applications are not affected with that. So in ASP.NET 5, I can have the flexibility. You won't face any issues like that. I have a flexibility to choose which .NET version to use for each application. So different application can run on different .NET versions, and for ensuring the different applications to run on different .NET version, you need to have the core CLR. You need to target the core CLR, which is the minified CLR of the cross-platform CLR. So then another feature is the built-in dependency injection. So as I mentioned, you don't have to make use of dependency resolver of Web API or dependency resolver of MVC. You have the dependency resolver inbuilt. So you can register your container, you register your services in a container, and you can call it directly in your, you can call it how you used to call your third-party dependency resolvers in your controller, and you can use the same way in your startup class, or you can use it in your helpers, and you don't have to worry about the dependency injection. It is currently inbuilt in your ASP.NET 5 application. And then the ability to self-host on IaaS, self-host or on host on IaaS. You don't have to depend fully on IaaS, but it's still the powerful platform to host your ASP.NET application. But you can make use of self-host platform, and you can run your applications with outside of IaaS. Then another thing is the open source in GitHub. So when you look at the ASP.NET home repo in GitHub, you can see it is fully open source. You have all the open source things which is available, which is made as open source by Microsoft. It is available in GitHub. So whatever changes, whatever things that Microsoft is doing, it is available through GitHub. So you get the latest daily builds, and if you want to work on the daily builds, you can have the option to work on the daily build, and everything is available as open source in GitHub. So that is a major change that that has been done by Microsoft in the .NET platform. Then the simplified dependency management. So we'll have a look at how the dependency is managed and the packages are managed in the coming slides. Then coming to the DNX and DNVM. So what is a DNVM? So we used to hear KVM first, then now it is DNVM. So KVM was the .NET, the K version manager. The K was the K letter was the code name for the ASP.NET 5. I mean ASP.NET 5, the version manager, but now it has been renamed to DNVM. So DNVM stands for .NET version manager, So currently it is the DNVM. There is no KVM. So the K project has been KVM has been renamed to DNVM, and DNX, which was K runtime, the K runtime environment KRE, it has been renamed to DNX, and DNX stands for .NET executable, .NET cross-platform, or whatever the X stands for. And the DNX is portable CLR host, and you need to boot the CLR, usually Windows or Windows Core or any platform you run. So it is the CLR is not part of your operating system. It is part of your application, and whenever your application is run, it boots up along with the application. So you need to make sure that you are targeting the .NET Core when you are running. When you're choosing this DNX CLR. So let me have a look. Let us have a look at what DNVM is. So DNVM list. So I have the DNVM installed. So before going to the DNVM keys, let us have a look at how we can install DNX or the DNVM. First we need to install DNVM. Then we need to update the DNX. So a DNVM is something which installs the DNX. So how to install DNVM? So to install DNVM, you can have the optimistic and the established KVM. So DNVM is still the optimistic that they call it is the bleeding edge thing. It might break at times. So it is currently under development. They haven't released the preview versions available. They haven't released the stable version yet. So if you want to install the optimistic DNVM, you can you have this PowerShell script. Just install the PowerShell script, and it will install it from the GitHub repo, and everything will be ready in your system. So you can just install your application, install DNVM with this one PowerShell script, which is available in ASP.NET Home repo. So DNVM list is the command to list all the DNX versions installed in my system. So currently I have 4 DNX installed, and I have targeted 2 here, beta 5 11556 and 11351. So if I need to update DNVM, I mean the DNX, I can give the code as DNVM update. It will check for the latest version of DNX. It is DNX update. Oh, it is upgrade, not update. DNVM upgrade. This code will get the latest DNX version, and it will install the latest DNS version in your system. So where can you see the DNX installed through the Explorer? In the user profile, you can see a .dnx folder, and all the runtimes are here. So let's go inside this. So what I have, so I have the DNX here. So this is the DNX which makes sure that which runs the application behind. So I have the latest already installed. That's what it's coming like this. So it is there we have the DNX and DNVM. Then moving on to the next slide. Visual Studio 2015, you have a lot of tools coming in, you have multiple features coming in Visual Studio 2015. So Anu will explain on this new features that are available in Visual Studio 2015.
Thank you, Rifash. And we can go through each and every one, right? First one is cross-platform development. This cross-platform development is enabled by using this core CLR, because we can add this core CLR with each and every application. So by using that, we can develop this cross-platform development. So we just go through the application. Yeah, this is the basic structure, right? You can take a web application format. So inside that,
this is a sample web application that we have created. So the sample web application will have your default controllers. So the dependencies like bower and npm will explain on what is bower and npm. So it has the default configuration files. So this is a default configuration file. So this is being created from the new project and selecting the ASP.NET started web. So previously we created the preview started empty project. So this is a startup project, the web empty web project that we have created.
So here you can see the dependencies like bower and npm. Okay, so this bower and npm is the package managers which is used to manage the packages for the client side. Okay, for configuring this bower and npm there is a JSON file called bower.json and bower.json. Here you can configure the required JS files you need for your client-side application. And
so all the client-side libraries which are available in npm is available here. So you can select whichever thing that is available. You have a brilliant intelligence coming into Visual Studio which enables you to select all the packages here. So that is a cool feature that Visual Studio has brought in to select the features through intelligence, and you can have the version also mentioned along with that.
The next thing is grunt. The grunt is used for minifying and bundling process while doing the compilation. So inside this grunt file you can specify the files, JS files or other resources which you need to minify and doing the bundling process. You can specify the path here. Then while doing the compilation, the grunt task will automatically convert it as minified files. Then the next one is package.json. Inside this, we know that the ASP.NET 5 is fully a package kind of mechanism, following a package kind of mechanism. So which are the packages which you need, only we need to add inside your application. So the required packages, you can configure the required packages inside this package.json. The intelligence is also available here also.
So moving on to the slides, so these are the features available. You have a brilliant IntelliSense for bower and npm, Visual Studio Tools for Apache Cordova, and Visual Studio Emulator for Android. So you can build an Android application now in your Visual Studio 2015. You have the Android emulator along with the CDB installation. So you can build an Android application in the Visual Studio 2015. And you have the .NET framework, the full framework 4.6 along with 2015. And yes, you have the flexibility to add the .NET Core, the lesser framework, which the modular one, and you have debugging and diagnostics improvements. You have the all the improvements in the debugging and diagnostics, TypeScript, unit test, application insights, release management. Everything has been included in the latest version of 2015, and it is the preview version is available. You can go to visualstudio.com and download the preview version, and you have your CTV version, the technical preview version, available as well. The community technical preview version is also available as well. So what we have demoed, we have used the CTP version. So moving on to the next slide. So we have already discussed about the dependency management, how the dependency management is being handled. So you don't have to directly add the assembly references here. You can, all the assembly references are available in the NuGet packages. All the things are available in the NuGet packages. As and when you require those packages, you can add it there. And NuGet package manager or the project.json file, it will allow you to add all the required dependencies from NuGet. So if you want to add any dependencies here, so if you want to add a Microsoft.asp.net. ASP.NET. So all the things are available through IntelliSense here. You can add your NuGet packages through the project.json file, and you can have your version number mentioned as well. So 6.0 beta 3 is a version available for ASP.NET MVC. And on saving this, you can find these changes in both the full framework. So currently we have targeted both the frameworks. So you can find the changes in, you can find the NuGet packages added to both the frameworks. And you also have the options to add the NuGet packages via a new NuGet package manager console. So this is a new package manager console. You get to add the beta versions. So that is a new feature coming into Visual Studio. You can add the beta versions through the new NuGet package manager. So there are two options by which you can add the packages in your application. And no dependent packages are listed on JSON, project.json. So if my MVC, ASP.NET MVC is having multiple dependent packages, those dependent packages are not displayed there. So coming back to Bower, Grunt and NPM. So Anubhas mentioned about Bower, Grunt and NPM. So you have the brilliant Bower, Grunt and NPM integrated to ASP.NET 5 and the newer Visual Studio. So Bower is a package manager for the web. We install and restore client-side packages, include JavaScript client-side packages and CSS libraries. So for the server side, server-side library, we still use the NuGet package. For all the client-side application, client-side libraries, we can make use of the Bower. Grunt is a JavaScript task runner, so they call it a task runner. So task runner is an app that automates routine development tasks, and you can have the Grunt in ASP.NET 5, and this can be also used for minification and bundling. So you can mention which JavaScript file to be loaded at which page at which time, and everything you can mention through Grunt, and you can handle minification and bundling as part of through Grunt. So NPM is where the Bower and Grunt came from. It is originally created for Node.js, and instead of navigating around the web and downloading project resources, we can download all the resources that is available in NPM. It is a bigger ecosystem there, and you can have all the utilities, all the packages, the client-side packages, and you can make use through NPM. So Kestrel is a new cross-platform OWIN and web server for ASP.NET. So if you want to run your self-host your application outside of IIS, Kestrel is the thing that you need to target. So ASP.NET 5 application, it does not talk directly to the web server. This feature is facilitated, so it does not talk directly to the web server. So it is facilitated through feature interfaces, so which enables ASP.NET 5 applications to switch between the hosts seamlessly. So you can switch between multiple hosts. You can target ASP.NET. You can target IIS experts. You can target your own host. You can specify that hosting everything from the project.json file. So that's all we have for today's webinar, and we'll be taking you deeply on the ASP.NET MVC 6 and Web API in the coming webinars, and we'll be explaining how you can self-host your those web applications. So we'll be running those demo applications in IIS Express as well as in the server or the local self-hosted web server that you are mentioning in the project.json file. So that's what we have for today, and back to you, Mukta.
So thank you, Rifaj, and thank you, Anup. It was a pleasure to have you both on board, and that was a very informative session. Now it's time for the question and answer. We are ready to address your questions. Type in your question using the question feature on the GoToWebinar. So we have our first question for the day. Can we create a web form app in ASP.NET 5?
Okay.
Yes.
Anup, you can answer that.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we can create, but we can't use the core CLR for creating these web form applications. We have to use the full framework for creating this web application.
And ASP.NET 5, the final version is expected to have the MVC 6 is expected to have web forms also combined along with MVC, web API and web pages. And if you want to migrate your existing application, you can always do that, making use of the .NET full framework, the 4.6. There won't be much changes, much modification that you need to change or do on your code. You can have your web forms moved without much changes.
Okay, so the second question for the day is, how does Visual Studio know which DNX version to use?
Okay, so we have listed the multiple versions here. So my DNVM list will list out all the versions that is installed here, and I can target. I can specify, so going to this project. Going to the properties and on the debug. So there is, I can choose the profile. So I previously mentioned you can have the self-host also when you're adding the self-host option and the server in your project.json file. And then you have a specific runtime. This is the place where you can select your CLR. So if you want to have the KRE core CLR, the beta 3, so whichever version that you want, you can specify it here.
So that's moving to the next question. Why not install client packages via NuGet?
Okay, so we have, yes, we have Bootstrap, we have all the client packages available in NuGet as well, but it is easy to make use of the rich ecosystem that you have in NPM. NPM has all the rich components, all the components that you need for the client-side application development. And you can make use of NuGet for the server side and keep Bower and NPM for the front-end JavaScript or the front-end libraries and the CSS libraries. And you can keep the NuGet for the server-side packages. All the server-side packages are currently available in NuGet, and we can make use of NuGet for handling the server-side packages, and all the client-side packages we can do it via Bower and NPM.
Okay, so the next question is it okay to update to ASP.NET 5 now?
That's a good question actually. Yes, I would say you can start developing, but there are breaking changes coming on each preview version. If you have an enterprise application, currently it's better to wait. You can wait for the final release, and if you start developing something new, I would say if you're ready for the bleeding edge thing, if you're ready for accepting the breakages for the newer version, the preview releases, you have all the things, you can start building a newer application in ASP.NET 5. But if you're targeting an enterprise application to upgrade, it's better to wait for the final release of the Visual Studio and the ASP.NET 5.
Okay, so the last question for the day, can I use a third-party DA container of my choice?
Yes, like you can use Autofag, you can use Ninject. The inbuilt dependency injection will be there, but you can always make use of a third-party dependency resolver. You can always make use of the dependency resolver of your choice.
So that's all from our end. Now, as I conclude, I would like to notify to all attendees that this is a series of webinar, and all of you will be automatically registered for the next one, which will be on how MVC 6 could be the perfect framework for you. So thank you, folks. Thank you Rifaj and Anoop. And this is all the time we had. Please look for a follow-up mail that will alert you on the on-demand status of the webinar so that you can review any material you missed, or you can simply go over again. Now, any further queries will be taken offline. Reach us at our social media. You can also drop us a mail at webinar@suyati.com. Now that brings us to the end of our webinar. On behalf of Rifaj and Anoop and our team at Suyati Technologies, I would like to thank you all for joining us and taking a time to attend our webinar. Have a great day.